have thought that the day would come when we would see the Final Fantasy characters interact with the Disney characters. I mean, if you were to ask me years ago if it was possible for the Final Fantasy characters to be talking with the likes of Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy, I would have told you no. Definitely not happening. But it has happened, and that means that I got to explain about how I felt about all this. Oh boy, I can't wait for you guys to hear about what I got to say about all this. Caution! The following video is an in-depth review of the video game I'm currently reviewing, which means that there will be massive spoilers in the review. If you haven't played this video game yet, then please feel free to play this video game first before watching this video. However, if you have already played this video game, or you just want to know my thoughts on this video game, then keep watching. This video was requested to me by Captain Imagination, who asked me to review the Kingdom Hearts franchise, and you can check out their channel in the description box below. When I got this request, I was originally going to review the first 3 games in the series, which were Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, and Kingdom Hearts 2, all into one video. But once I saw that each game in the Kingdom Hearts series had much more depth in the storylines than I thought, it was then that I decided that it was best to just review each game in the series separately. Whew! It's a good thing that I decided to review each game separately instead of reviewing all 3 games into one video. I probably would have spent hours at my laptop trying to review all 3 of these games. Also, I want to review this video game because, as of this video, Kingdom Hearts 3 had just been released, and it won't be long now until I eventually get around to reviewing Kingdom Hearts 3 for the Reviews 2.0 series. Anyway, let's dive into the game that jump-started the whole franchise, Kingdom Hearts 1, or Kingdom Hearts for short. I never would have thought that I would be reviewing a video game for the Reviews 2.0 series. So far I have mainly reviewed movies and TV shows, and as of this video, I still haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg in regards to reviewing all of the movies and TV shows that I had seen over the years. At first I was hesitant about reviewing a video game under this format because video games have a much more different format of storytelling than movies and TV shows do. For one thing, with video games you have to play the game to fully understand the story of the game. In other words, video games are an interactive experience for the players as we get to see the world that the characters live in by playing as that character and see how certain events affects both them and the player themselves. This was part of the reason why I rarely review video games in the past, because I wasn't sure how I would be able to review video games without talking about the gameplay in a standard review. So, I had made a decision for myself that from now on, if I'm going to review video games, I need to play the games first before reviewing them. So no more looking up on Wikipedia or any other sites for the summaries of the games and just reviewing the summaries of the games without reviewing the gameplay too. Because that's what I did for my review on Psychonauts in the past, and I regretted doing that ever since. Let's hope that I get the chance to re-review Psychonauts in the near future. So before I get into what I liked and hated about this video game, I would like to give out a brief summary of this game. The game is basically about 3 kids named Sora, Riku, and Kairi who all live on the Destiny Islands and would play with each other. One day, however, the 3 friends decided to leave the island so that they could find adventure at other places, and they ended up building a raft that would take them off the island. But unfortunately, a mysterious storm hits the island, and Sora, Riku, and Kairi ended up getting separated from each other. Sora is then thrown into another world that is completely different from his own, and it was then that Sora learned that a group of evil beings called the Heartless are going to different worlds stealing people's hearts to spread darkness across the world. Sora also learns that he is the key bearer, and that his own sword, which is shaped like a key, is the key to stopping the darkness from engulfing the world. I never would have thought that the Kingdom Hearts series would have taken off the way that it did. I mean, sure, having iconic Disney characters like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy would have pretty much made this series into a huge success anyway. But I was expecting the game series to last for like 2 or 3 games, not over 10 games. Wow, not only was Disney successful in the movie business, but they were pretty successful in the video game business. Who knew? Anyway, when I first heard about this game, I was a bit curious about how this game would turn out, although I wasn't fully excited about this game. Hey, this was during the days where I wasn't the biggest video game fan that I am today. Anyway, when I finally got this game and started playing it, I just immediately fell in love with both the gameplay and the story. I was completely surprised by how much I had enjoyed this game, even though I went into this game with low expectations, despite the fact that my favorite Disney characters were in this game. It's clear to me that a lot of thought and heart were put into this game, as each character featured in the story were very well written. The fact that this game featured most of the Disney characters for the Disney Renaissance era of the 1990s was quite a feat to behold. I never would have expected that I would live to see the day where I would see my favorite Disney characters all come together into one game. I was also happy that most of the original voice actors from the Disney Renaissance films had came back to reprise their roles, such as Jim Cummings coming back to voice Winnie the Pooh, and James Wood reprising his role as Hades from Hercules. Each Disney character featured in this game were portrayed faithfully from the movie characterizations. I was glad about this because one of my biggest concerns about this game was in how they were going to portray the Disney characters. Thankfully, the developers had great respect for these characters and didn't do anything to ruin the characterizations of the Disney characters. I also love the fact that the Disney characters weren't just thrown into this game just because Square Enix and Disney wanted to put out a game that would make them millions of dollars. Each Disney character actually served a purpose for the story, as some of them like Ariel from The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, and surprisingly, Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas would help Sora and his friends out with their missions. I was actually curious about how the Disney characters would fare in a more action-packed environment than most of Square Enix's games take place in. Most of the Disney movies that I had seen would usually have characters that are either constantly singing or have lighthearted personalities. But surprisingly enough, the Disney characters fit pretty well in this setting, helping Sora, Donald, and Goofy whenever they can, even if some of those characters aren't even fighters. I was quite impressed with the storyline in this game, as while there were a couple plot holes in the story, which I'll go more into depth with later, it was pretty complex and interesting. I was intrigued by the concept of the Heartless in this game, as while it was pretty intense seeing the villains steal the hearts out of their victims, it was interesting seeing how the game approaches the idea of determination and inner goodness. The core of the villain's plan is to collect the hearts from several princesses, which is where the Disney princesses come into play. The Disney princesses are being held captive in the world of Hollow Bastion, and the villains are trying to find one more princess in order to open up the door to Kingdom Hearts. Okay, you still with me here? Because the plot can get pretty confusing, so bear with me here. Anyway, I mentioned before that the game delved into the concept of determination and inner goodness. It shows here that the reason why Sora was so successful in his mission and preventing the villains from overtaking Kingdom Hearts was that he had a good heart and was able to bond with various people along his journey. Also, he was determined at all costs to find both his friends Kairi and Riku and save them from whatever troubling situations they got into. With Riku, it was when he started working with the villains after seeing Sora with his new friends and getting upset about that. With Kairi, it was the fact that she got kidnapped by the villains who wanted to take her heart to power Kingdom Hearts. I really enjoyed the plot twists that happened in this game as they came out of nowhere and they really added more to the mysterious nature of this game. I was wondering throughout the game about who the final princess that the villains were trying to find was, and I was totally blown away by the fact that it was Kairi herself who was the missing princess. And oh, by the way, an even bigger twist with this revelation is that Kairi's real heart has been inside Sora all along. Wow, what a major plot twist. I also liked the twist about who the true villain of this game was. At first it seemed like Maleficent, you know, the evil sorceress from Sleeping Beauty, was the main villain of this game as she was the one who rallied all of the villains together. She was also responsible for corrupting Riku into working for the Heartless by feeding into his insecurities about his friendship with Sora. But towards the end of this game, it turns out that a mysterious being named Ansem was actually the one who was behind the evil plot in the story, and it totally deflated everything that I knew about this game at this point. I think that these plot twists were done very well as the game makes sure to build up to the mystery of the final princess and the true villain and how their roles will affect the course of the game. All of the characters in this game were very well written as they all have intriguing personalities that complement well with the story. Sora was an interesting protagonist as he is always shown being optimistic and never once gave up on his journey of saving his friends Riku and Kairi. I also love the relationships that Sora has started up with various characters, especially with Donald and Goofy. Sora's bantering with both Donald and Goofy was some of the biggest highlights in this game, as I found their bantering to be quite entertaining and hilarious, especially whenever Sora and Donald are arguing with each other. I also love the fact that Sora, Donald, and Goofy remain friends throughout the game despite some rough spots in their relationship. This becomes more prominent during the scene where Riku takes Sora's Keyblade and Donald and Goofy were forced to go with Riku because King Mickey gave them instructions to stay with the wielder of the Keyblade at all times. However, because Sora, Donald, and Goofy had established a strong relationship with each other, Donald and Goofy decided to go back to Sora anyway since they valued their friendship with him. Riku was another interesting character in this game as he was the typical friend turned enemy. I found his relationship with Sora to be pretty interesting. While he and Sora had occasionally butted heads with each other, Riku actually does care about Sora, and he was devastated when he thought that Sora had abandoned him. I like the fact that the reason why Riku turned to the dark side was because Maleficent had tricked him into thinking that Sora had betrayed him, and that really brings in a more emotional weight to the story. I was literally sitting on the edge of my seat, hoping that Riku discovered the truth about the situation and would try to make up with Sora about his past misdeeds. I also wonder a bit about Riku's relationship with Kairi. It's clear that Sora seems to have a crush on her, and Riku does seem to really care about her. But just how much does Riku care for Kairi? Does he have a crush on her, or does he just treat her like a good friend? The game was pretty vague about all this. As for Kairi herself, she's another character who has some interesting moments, but unfortunately she doesn't do much in this game due to spending most of the game being kidnapped. I'll go more into that later. Anyway, I do like the fact that Kairi has a close relationship with both Sora and Riku, and she also maintains a friendly personality throughout the game. Even during the situations where she is in danger, and I do like her relationship with Sora as she and Sora are very close with each other. But unfortunately, Kairi just seems to be in this game to be the damsel in distress that the protagonist needs to save. Wow, this is like the third review that I did where I complained about the protagonist having a love interest that doesn't do much in the story. Well, maybe except for getting kidnapped and then being saved by the protagonist. And to also prove to the audience that the protagonist actually does have a love interest. What are the odds? And now let's talk about the gameplay, because it wouldn't be a video game review unless I talk about the gameplay. The gameplay was pretty solid as the animation was very well done for its time. Though there were some inconsistent moments in the animation where the characters' mouths didn't move in sync with the dialogue. Anyway, I love the fact that this was an RPG game, which is one of my favorite genres in gaming. What I always love about RPG games in general is the fact that you get to play with several different characters all at once, and you get to see each playable character showcase a different power set that they each possess. However, the RPG style of this game is different from the other RPG style games that I have played in the past, like the Final Fantasy series, which is ironic since both the Final Fantasy and the Kingdom Hearts series were both created by Square Enix. In this case, instead of having your playable characters standing in one spot while they are fighting the enemies, you can actually move around the area while fighting the enemies. Also, you are only playing one character in this game, which is Sora of course, instead of playing multiple characters at once, which is quite intriguing. Although you can use abilities from the other characters like Donald and Goofy to help you fight against the enemies. Now, I would like to talk about some of the issues that I have with this game. For one thing, this game seems to have a lot of plot holes. Now, I know that this game is only the first of a long overarching plot that has spanned over 10 games that were being made in this series, and that the whole story of the Kingdom Hearts franchise hasn't completely been told in this game. But I was a bit confused about the backstory regarding Ansem and the Heartless. Now, I know that within the game, if you collected all Ansem's notes that are scattered throughout each level, you get to read up on how Ansem had experimented with the Heartless, and how his experimentations had caused the Heartless to become even more powerful. However, in the main story, it was completely vague about how the Heartless were created, and we don't know much about Ansem himself. I wish that the game took the time to explain a few things about the Heartless within the story, so that way we would have a better understanding of the Heartless's nature. Also, some of the characters in this game were quite well developed for me to really get engaged into the situations. I've mentioned before that while Kairi has a nice personality in this game, and I liked her relationship with both Sora and Riku, she didn't have much to do in the game. She's pretty much just there in the game to be a love interest to both Sora and Riku, and when the revelation came that she was one of the missing princesses that the villains wanted to use to open up Kingdom Hearts, that just left me with a lot more questions about her character. Like, how is she a princess? And if that's the case, then what kingdom or country did she actually come from? The game never really explained any of this, and I'm left wondering about Kairi's true nature in this game. I also think that it was a bit disappointing that we didn't see much of Mickey Mouse himself, as he only showed up in the last few minutes of the game. It would have been great to see just how powerful he is in this game and how he knew about Kingdom Hearts itself. As I had mentioned before, there's been over 10 games released for the Kingdom Hearts series, and this is only the first of the franchise. Whew, I sure got my work cut out for me in reviewing the rest of the series down the line. Kingdom Hearts is rated E for everyone, and was rated E for violence. There are some scenes of Sora, Donald, and Goofy beating up the Heartless and some of the villains, so that might count as violence, although there is no graphic violence in this game. Overall, I give Kingdom Hearts a score of a 9.5 out of 10. Even though there were some plot holes in this game that made the story a bit confusing to understand, and some of the characters weren't well developed, I still love the fact that the game managed to use both the Final Fantasy characters and the Disney characters effortlessly into one game without ruining either of their characters. The plot contains a lot of mystery and excitement that always has me excited to see where this franchise is going to go, and I can't wait to dive into the other Kingdom Hearts games soon. Hope you enjoy my review of Kingdom Hearts. Hey guys, like this video? Then please feel free to hit that like button. And also, hit that subscribe button for more content about video games, movies, and TV shows from this channel. And now, let's roll the credits, please!